You meet her, and something feels different. There's a pull you can't explain, a chemistry that seems almost unfair in its intensity. She looks at you like she sees something others missed. She opens up faster than you expected. She tells you things, deep things, things about her past, her pain, her fears, and you think, this is it. This is connection. This is real. Fast forward 3 months, you're exhausted, confused, walking on eggshells in your own relationship. The woman who once looked at you with adoration now looks at you with suspicion. The chemistry that felt magical now feels volatile. Every time things get good, she finds a reason to blow them up. Every time you get close, she creates distance. Every time you prove you're trustworthy, she invents new tests, and you're sitting there wondering, what happened? What did I do wrong? How did the best connection of my life turn into the most draining experience I've ever had? I'm going to tell you what happened. You got involved with a woman carrying a father wound, and that wound has an agenda you never agreed to. It will test you, push you, provoke you, and exhaust you until you either break or walk away. And today, we're going to understand exactly how this works so you can recognize it, survive it, and make informed decisions about whether to stay or go. Let me start at the beginning. Not your beginning with her beginning with men. Because everything that's happening in your relationship was programmed decades before you showed up. A father wound forms in childhood when the primary male figure, usually the father but sometimes a stepfather, grandfather or significant male caretaker, fails to provide consistent emotional presence. This failure can take many forms. He might have been physically absent. He might have been present but emotionally unavailable. He might have been inconsistent, loving one day, cold the next. He might have been critical, impossible to please, withdrawn, addicted, or simply checked out. The specific form matters less than the effect. A little girl is learning in her most formative years what to expect from men, and what she learns from an inconsistent or absent father is this. Male love is unreliable. Male presence is temporary. Male approval must be constantly earned and can be revoked without warning. Closeness with men is dangerous because they leave, they withdraw, they disappoint. This isn't a conscious belief. She won't tell you this on the first date. She probably doesn't even know she believes it. But it's written into her nervous system. It's the operating code running beneath every interaction she has with men, and it will shape everything about how she relates to you. Now here's where it gets counterintuitive. You'd think a woman who experienced emotional absence from her father would crave stability, would be drawn to reliable men, would appreciate consistency when she finally finds it. But that's not how psychology works. We don't automatically gravitate toward what's healthy. We gravitate toward what's familiar. And for a woman with a father wound, chaos is familiar. Instability is familiar. Having to work for love, never quite knowing where she stands, bracing for disappointment. That's the emotional landscape she knows. So when you show up as a stable, reliable, emotionally available man, something strange happens. At first, she's attracted. This is what she always wanted, right? A man who actually shows up. A man who calls when he says he will. A man who's consistent. But as you continue being that man, her nervous system starts to rebel. Because stability doesn't feel safe to her. Stability feels suspicious. It feels like the calm before the storm. It feels like something terrible is about to happen because in her experience, good things don't last. This is the first major dynamic you need to understand. Your consistency triggers her anxiety, not her comfort. The more reliable you are, the more her unconscious mind prepares for betrayal. She's not thinking this consciously. She's not sitting there deciding to be suspicious. Her body's doing it automatically based on decades of conditioning. Peace feels dangerous because peace always preceded abandonment before. And so she does something that seems crazy from the outside. She creates instability. She picks a fight. She finds something to criticize. She manufactures drama out of nothing. Why? Because chaos is what she knows how to navigate. Chaos is where she feels competent. The calm you're providing is unfamiliar territory, and her system wants to return to known ground. So she drags the relationship back into familiar dysfunction, not because she wants to, but because her nervous system demands it. Let me describe what this looks like in practice. You have a great weekend together. Really great. Deep conversations, genuine connection, maybe the best time you've had as a couple. You go to bed thinking, this is what I wanted, we're finally in a good place. You wake up the next morning and she's distant, cold, something's wrong. You ask what's going on and she has a complaint you've never heard before, or she's suddenly upset about something from 2 weeks ago, or she's picking apart something minor until it becomes a major issue. You're blindsided. Everything was perfect 12 hours ago. What changed? The answer is, the perfection itself is what changed things. The closeness triggered her. The good feelings activated her fear that good feelings don't last, and her system responded by creating distance before the inevitable disappointment could arrive. She's not trying to hurt you. She's trying to protect herself from being hurt by you. Preemptively, unconsciously, self-defeatingly. This is what I call conflict as emotional regulation. For a woman with a father wound, arguments serve a function that has nothing to do with the content of the argument. The function is to regulate her emotional state. When things feel too good, too safe, too close, her system becomes dysregulated. The anxiety rises, and conflict brings relief. It returns her to familiar emotional territory where she knows the rules and can anticipate what happens next. You'll notice the pattern if you pay attention. Good moments followed immediately by manufactured crises, intimacy followed by withdrawal, expressions of love followed by accusations. It's not random, it's a cycle, and the cycle serves the purpose of keeping her at a safe, emotional distance, close enough to receive validation, far enough to avoid the vulnerability that terrifies her. Let me talk about another component of the father wound, the confusion between attention and connection. When a little girl doesn't receive consistent emotional presence from her father, she learns to seek validation in other ways. She learns that attention, being noticed, being desired, being wanted, feels similar enough to love that it can substitute. It's not the same thing. But when you're starving, you don't distinguish between nutrition and calories. You just eat whatever's available. This creates a pattern where she seeks attention to fill the void that should have been filled by secure attachment. And the easiest way to get attention, she discovers, is through desirability, through being attractive, through eliciting desire. She learns to use her sexuality as currency, not because she's shallow, but because desire was the most reliable source of male attention available to her. Her father might not have shown up emotionally, but boys and men definitely noticed when she was attractive. So she develops a relationship with intimacy that's more about validation than connection. Physical closeness becomes a way to feel wanted. Sex becomes proof that she has value. But here's the problem. Desire isn't love. Wanting someone's body isn't the same as wanting their heart. And a woman who confuses these things ends up in a cycle where she uses physical intimacy to feel temporarily secure, but never builds the actual emotional safety that would make her genuinely secure. You'll see this in the relationship. Physical intimacy might be intense, the chemistry might be off the charts, but there's a transactional quality to it that's hard to name. It's not just about pleasure or connection, it's about something she needs from the interaction that goes beyond the physical. She's trying to fill a hole that sex can't fill, and no matter how often you're intimate, the hole remains, because the hole was never about you. It was carved years ago by someone who should have made her feel valuable without requiring anything in return. Here's another pattern, using physical intimacy to smooth over conflict. After a fight, maybe a fight she started, maybe one that you're not even sure how it began, she wants to be close, she initiates, and in the moment, it feels like resolution. We're okay, you think, we made up. But nothing was actually resolved. No conversation happened. No understanding was reached. The conflict was just papered over with intimacy. And sure enough, a week later, the same issue returns, because it was never addressed. The closeness created an illusion of repair while leaving the actual damage intact. This isn't conscious manipulation, it's a learned pattern. She discovered, somewhere along the way, that physical intimacy could diffuse tension without requiring the harder work of emotional repair. It's a shortcut that feels effective but leads nowhere. You'll cycle through the same conflicts endlessly because they're never actually resolved, just temporarily forgotten. Let me talk about the bigger pattern, the repeating cycle that becomes the entire relationship. Short bursts of connection followed by longer periods of tension, breakups and reconciliations that start to feel scripted. The same arguments appearing like seasons, predictable and unavoidable. You're not growing together, you're looping. Every few weeks, you end up in the same place you were before, different surface content, same underlying dynamic, and you start to wonder if anything will ever actually change. The answer, without intervention, is no, because the pattern isn't about the specific issues you're fighting about. The pattern is the manifestation of her unresolved wound. The issues are just props. If you resolved every single complaint she has, new complaints would appear. Because the complaints aren't the point. The instability is the point. The cycle is the point. It's the only relationship structure her nervous system knows how to maintain. Here's something men struggle with in these relationships. The disconnect between words and behavior. She says all the right things. She tells you she loves you. She apologizes after fights. She makes promises about the future. She expresses desire to change. And she might genuinely mean all of it in the moment. But her actions tell a different story. The same patterns keep appearing. The same dynamics keep playing out. The behavior doesn't match the words. This is where men get stuck. Because the words are so convincing. The apology sounds sincere. The promise sounds real. And you want to believe it because you care about her. And you remember how good things were at the beginning. So you give another chance. And another. You invest more, hoping that this time the words will become actions. But patterns are more honest than intentions. What someone does consistently reveals their actual capacity far more accurately than what they say occasionally. I want to address something about men now, because it takes two to create this dynamic, and some men are uniquely susceptible to it. Some men are drawn to women with father wounds not despite the chaos, but because of it. These are men who have their own wounds, often related to feeling needed, feeling purposeful, feeling like they can fix things. The chaos gives them a role. The instability gives them a mission. They become the rescuer, the fixer, the one who can finally give her the stability she needs. It feels noble. It feels meaningful. It feels like love. But it's not love. It's codependency dressed in romantic clothing. The man who's drawn to fix a wounded woman is often avoiding his own work by focusing on hers. He gets to feel important, capable, needed, all without addressing his own internal void. And the relationship becomes a mutual dysfunction where both parties are using each other to avoid facing themselves. If you recognize yourself in this, I need you to hear something uncomfortable. You're not helping her by staying in a cycle of chaos and repair. You're enabling it. Your presence allows the pattern to continue without consequences. Your forgiveness teaches her that her behavior has no cost. Your continued investment says that she can test you indefinitely without losing you. You think you're being loving, but you're actually preventing the very growth you want to see. Here's something else men need to understand about attraction patterns. A woman with a father wound is often not attracted to stability, at least not reliably. She's attracted to what's familiar, and what's familiar is often men who echo the original wound. Emotionally unavailable men, inconsistent men, men who can't quite be pinned down, men who feel exciting precisely because they trigger the same anxiety she felt as a child. This is why she might have a history of choosing men who treat her poorly while overlooking men who treat her well. It's not that she's stupid or masochistic, it's that the good men don't feel right to her. They don't activate her nervous system the way the unavailable men do. The stable guy feels boring. The unpredictable guy feels magnetic. She confuses activation for attraction, anxiety for chemistry, dysfunction for depth. And you, if you're the stable guy, find yourself in an impossible position. If you stay stable, you're not activating her. If you become unpredictable to activate her, you're becoming someone you're not, and feeding a dynamic that isn't healthy. There's no version of you that wins this game because the game is rigged. She's not actually evaluating you as a partner. She's unconsciously trying to recreate a childhood dynamic, and you're being cast in a role that was written before you were born. Let me talk about boundaries, because this is where truth gets revealed. How a woman responds to boundaries tells you everything you need to know about her readiness for a real relationship. A healthy woman might not like your boundaries. She might push back. She might feel disappointed when you say no, but she respects them. She doesn't see limits as rejection. She doesn't punish you for having standards. She adjusts, even if reluctantly, because she understands that two individuals building a relationship will necessarily have points of friction that require negotiation. A woman with an active, unaddressed father won't respond to boundaries as if they're attacks. Limits feel like abandonment. No feels like rejection. Your attempt to maintain self-respect is experienced as withdrawal of love. and she retaliates, she might rage, she might withdraw, she might escalate until the boundary breaks, she might cry until you cave, she might threaten, implicitly or explicitly, that the relationship can't survive your insistence on having standards. This is critical information. Because here's what it tells